Summary of When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka. An unnamed woman reads a sign in the post office that says Evacuation Order Number 19 on a spring day in Berkeley, California, in 1942. The sign says that in a couple of weeks, all Japanese people living in the city will have to leave. The woman goes back to her house to pack and get her two preteen children, the girl and the boy, ready to leave. The husband of the woman was detained by the U.S. government in December on fear that he was an alien enemy. The woman sits on the floor of her kitchen the night before the evacuation, crying because she has to leave her kids and doesn't know when she will return. The woman, girl, and boy take a train through Nevada on their way to a camp in Utah where they will be moved. The train is full of Japanese people and the armed guards who ride with them. Everyone has to close their shades when the train goes through a town. The last time they went through a town with their shades up, someone threw a rock through the window. The girl goes to sleep and wakes up a few hours later to see a group of wild Mustangs racing across the desert. She wakes her brother up by resting her face against the glass. He moans softly and says, "They're leaving." Soldiers with bayonets take the family off the train the next morning and lead them to a camp called Topaz. There, hundreds of tar paper huts are lined up in a dried-out salt lake. There are barbed wire walls all around the camp. At the start of the internment, the boy thinks he sees his father in the other older men who are locked up. He thinks they all look the same. His mother burned all of their Japanese items the day after the FBI took his father away. This included letters from family, the Japanese flag, and records of Japanese opera. The boy asks the girl where their kidnappers get the meat they eat in the winter. The girl says that the army shoots the wild horses when they come together. The girl becomes more independent and starts to smoke cigarettes, spend less time with her family, and eat with the other girls. Her mother, on the other hand, stays inside all day and either sleeps or stares at the stove. At the beginning of April, a man is shot near the walls because the prisoners say he was only reaching out to pick a flower. The boy often dreams at night that he is sitting next to his dad and telling him everything he has missed. When the family is finally freed and goes home, they find that their house is in bad shape. The front rose bush has been pulled up. The floor is full of broken bottles, dirty beds, and empty food cans. Someone also wrote a racist slur in the bedroom. They sleep together in a room that looks a lot like the one in the barracks on their first night back. The kids are very good in class, so no one will ever mistake them for the bad guys again. Their Japanese mother is trying to find work, but not many places will take her. She finally gets a job as a maid. One day, a message tells them that their dad is on his way home. They meet him at the train station. He is an old man with no teeth and no hair. He can get down on his knees, hug them, and say their names, but the kids don't know who he is. He is either very quiet at home or gets very angry over small things. He stays in his room and writes in his diary most of the time. The kids look all over the streets for their mom's rosebush in May, when the roses are in full bloom. They can't find it, but let's say the rosebush is blooming crazy in someone else's garden. The man tells his story in the last chapter, which is written like a notebook entry. He says with a mocking tone that everything is true, he sabotaged things and watched his neighbors. He says there are Japanese spies everywhere, like the priest, the reverend, the shoeshine boy, and more. He says his fault was being too short, too dark, and too proud. At the end of the book, he says sorry for these crimes and then writes, "There. That's it. I've said. Can I go now?"
About the author. Julie Otsuka was born and raised in California by Julie Otsuka. As an undergraduate at Yale University, she studied art and worked as a painter for a few years before she turned to writing stories when she was 30. In 1999, she got her MFA in writing from Columbia University. When the Emperor Was Divine, Otsuka's first book, is based on her own family background. The day after Pearl Harbor was bombed in 1941, the FBI arrested her grandpa, who was thought to be a Japanese spy. Her mother, uncle, and grandmother were sent to the Topaz internment camp and had to stay there for 3 years. Otsuka's second book, The Buddha in the Attic, came out almost 10 years after her first. It's about a group of young Japanese women who came to America in the early 1900s to marry guys they had never met. Otsuka lives in New York City.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.